You are listening to the Voice of the People on Observer Radio.
Folks, as promised, we're so very happy to have Anne-Marie Benton on the line with us. And she has an exciting story to tell, a most fascinating story to tell. And she actually tells the story in an autobiographical piece of literature that she's put together as a book, a fascinating read entitled Foolish Faith. And it's really the story of her life, how she exercised her faith and how the good Lord brought her out and her husband in a large place. I'll just read the very first part of it. Have you ever trusted God for something that seemed impossible, or stepped out of your comfort zone to accomplish what others said couldn't be done? If so, you've exercised foolish faith, a faith that seems ridiculous because it contradicts common sense, challenges the status quo, confronts limitations, and boldly pushes you forward despite the naysayers. Anne-Marie?
Yes, I'm here.
Good afternoon and welcome to Voice of the People.
Good afternoon. First and foremost, thank you so much for the privilege and the honor to be here. I send greetings from my husband, Willie. He is he's currently working, wasn't able to be here during this time of day, but he just wants to send his greetings and thank you as well for having me to represent us both.
Yes, certainly. Now, you need to tell the people who you are. And of course, you are Rupert Baba Blaze's daughter, and I believe you're the eldest daughter. Tell us a little bit about yourself so the people can sort of put a frame to this. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So yes, thank you for allowing me to share that. Yes, definitely the daughter of Rupert Baba Blaze, as everybody know him.
Anne-Marie,
yes.
Anne-Marie, before you go any further, you couldn't hide. He couldn't deny you. You look just like him. You look just like him. The high cheekbones, the smile, everything is Rupert Baba Blaze.
I look like a blaze, right? That's what everybody say. Everybody say that. So definitely can't hide. Don't want to hide. But I also have to give props to my mother, Janet, because I hear that I look like her too. So I hear I'm a good mixture of the both of them.
Certainly. Now I flipped through the book because your aunt, Sylvia Omar, she was kind enough to bring a copy to me. And it's quite a fascinating read. And I flipped through it, and I was taken by the point where you said, I fell in love with this man who was serving 2 life sentences in prison.
Yes.
Can you pick it up from there?
Absolutely. And real quick, I just want to say thank you to my auntie Sylvie for looking out and creating this opportunity for us as well. But yes, this is the whole premise of the book, Foolish Faith. I just want to share quickly before I share what you just asked me to talk about. The scripture that we base our entire, life story on is 1 Corinthians 1:27 that says, "But instead, God chose the things of the world that the world considers foolish in order to shame those who think they are wise. And he chose the things that are powerless to shame those who are powerful." And so, yes, prior to meeting my husband, I was already a prison minister. I was going in and ministering in the prisons for about 7-8 years prior to meeting him. That's not how we met, but I believe that God used that experience to prepare my heart so that when he did introduce us, when he connected us, that I would know that his hand was in it. Because, a lot of times we miss what God has for us because it doesn't necessarily come wrapped in the package that we expect, or even the package that we prefer. It would not have been my preference to choose somebody who's serving 2 life sentences, but as God, saw fit, he prepared Willie for me. He had been in for, at the time that we met, about 25 years. And when we met, Willie had already from prison published 6 books of his own. So when we came together, he was looking to publish another book. I had a business that helps authors to publish their books. And so we came together believing that's what we were doing, more of a business relationship. But as we began to learn more about each other, we realized, hey, God is really doing something amazing here. And it wasn't just that we said, hey, God, what are you doing? It was a manifestation of what we had both been praying for years prior to meeting each other.
Now, when you told friends and family members and loved ones, I'm going to marry this guy, they thought, this is foolishness. This is foolish faith. This is the title of the book. Tell us a little bit about that and the reaction you got from family members. And your own man. Well, you're a big woman, you by then, but tell us a little bit about what Baba Blaze has to say about it.
Yeah, that's a good question. So, my dad, like everybody else, primarily family and close friends, I realized that after the fact, that they were obviously concerned for me, right? Because here's the thing about foolish faith. When God tells us that he's going to do something or he's doing something, the reason why it appears to be foolish faith is because it only makes sense to those who he tells. Everybody else that's looking, that has not been privy to the private conversation between you and God, they look at it and cannot see it with the same eyes of faith. So because of that, I did have family members that were concerned, and they expressed their concerns because I met Willie in June, and by November I left Florida and moved to Atlanta where we live because God was leading me to do that. And even before I met Willie, God was preparing me to transition. So in hindsight, I can speak to hindsight. I won't lie to you that in the beginning, when some, ones that were close to me didn't understand, didn't support, couldn't really celebrate with me what we knew God was doing. In hindsight, I can tell you that there are times when God will, when you think about Peter stepping out the boat, I'm sure that everybody else that was sitting in the boat thought Peter had lost his mind. But when you know that God has called you to do something, you have to step boldly, and you cannot be concerned about those. I mean, you take them into consideration, but you cannot let the people stop the purpose. And so I took the bold step, and over the years, I will just say that people have come around because they have come to see how our marriage, the ministry God has placed in us, and more importantly, have gotten to know Willie. And he's an amazing, amazing man of God.
Now, give us another example or a couple more examples of how you exercised that foolish faith and how God brought you out in a large place. Perhaps think about it a bit. We'll take another quick break and be right back.
Okay.
Folks, we're so very happy to have Anne-Marie Benson with us, and she's sharing her life story, and it's in a book entitled Foolish Faith. Anne-Marie?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes. Now, I like the way that the book is written. You will write a chapter or two, and then Willie will write a chapter or two, and then you write a chapter or two. And but each of you, you're focusing on your own life and on your own experience, but weaving it together quite cleverly as well. Eh?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And what you asked me earlier, I'm glad that you said it the way you said it, because we believe, even though we share our story, that this is also your story. This is the reader's story, because like you said, if you look at the chapters that we give our perspective on, some of the chapter names are delayed but not denied. The gift of freedom, forgiveness, favor and protection. And you asked me before the commercial about some examples of foolish faith. This is why anybody who's reading this can see themselves in this, because as I think about some examples of foolish faith, I think about people in the Bible. The people in the Bible are not, just stories. There are actual people. So when I think about foolish faith examples that can apply to all of our lives today, I think about somebody like Noah, that Noah was asked to do something. He was asked to build a boat where it has never rained. There are people listening right now. God has called you. He's told you to do something that has never been done before. But because you are afraid to be the one to do something that blaze the path, you've been sitting on it. But God has called you by foolish faith to do that. I think about Abraham. I got up and left Florida after 32 years. Somebody listening to me, God is telling you to change your location, change where you're living. You might even have to leave Antigua. And I'm not saying, but what I'm saying is that wherever you are, you're too comfortable. It's time for you to grow. Where you are has been stagnating your growth. And so you have to exercise foolish faith. You have to step out. And then lastly, I think of Mary, that, when the angel came to her, and, where she had to exercise foolish faith, the first thing she looked at was her personal limitation. She said, but I'm too young. And somebody listening to me, you're thinking you're too young. You're thinking you're too old. You're thinking you're too dark. You're thinking you're too light. You're thinking you're just a woman. You're just whatever, because of your limitations. But foolish faith is not about us. It's about what God is doing in us, through us, and for us.
Now, tell us a little bit about the prison ministry that you had. And we don't know whether you're a regular preacher, whether you have a church, a congregation. Tell us a little bit more about that prison ministry, and then how, and if you could as well, how Willie got out, and you met in Florida after you got out of prison. Both of you met for the first time outside of the prison walls in Florida. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so actually, yes, I was doing prison ministry, and I was doing it in partnership with various churches, so not just any one church. And I was doing that for years. But when I moved here to Georgia, for probably another 2 years, because when I first moved here, Willie was scheduled to be released probably about 6 months after I got here. But we share in the book where they actually set him off. That means denied parole for another 2 years. But what we realize is that God was still preparing some things. That's where we talk about in the book, delayed is not denied, that sometimes we're not ready for what we're asking God for. And so we realized that God was still had some work for us to do, me outside of the prison walls, Willie within the prison walls, because Willie, he served in there. He did orientation. He is a certified carpenter and electrician. He mentored. He wrote his books. And so there was still, there were 16 and 17-year-olds still coming into prison, getting 30 years life sentences. And so these boys needed mentors. And so when Willie finally was released, it was glorious, because we were used to sitting down across a table and doing visitations on Saturdays and Sundays, talking for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours at a time. But it was glorious to have him home, have him, my husband is amazing, because a lot of people who've spent that amount of time in prison come out and have a difficult time transitioning back into the world. But my husband did not miss a beat. God bless him. He came out. He got a job. God has blessed us. We purchased a home, and God has really just been blessing us. And that's foolish faith right there.
Now, again, for those who want to know, and you're going to tell folks how they can get a copy of this book. It's a must-read. Sylvia Omar, attorney Sylvia Omar, she's your aunt. Tell us the connection there, please.
Yes, she is. I love my aunt a lot. And
by the way,
yes.
She texted me every 20 minutes to give me more information. It was like she was preparing. Paul, you have everything you need. Paul, is everything set up? She was just like a mother hen.
Yes.
With this thing.
That's my auntie.
Yeah. She wanted to make sure everything was just right. And when she bought the book, Paul, okay, and then everything, she was just fussing over it. Quite excited she was about it. Tell us the connection. Go ahead.
Yes, so she is my mommy, Janet Samuel. She's Janet's sister. So and she is, like you said, attorney there in Antigua. It really, when we do things, we know that there are going to be people that are not family members that will really, gravitate and receive and are blessed by things that we do. But it really is an extra blessing when it's family members. Auntie read the book and she contacted me and said it was an amazing read and felt like, others really needed to be aware of it. So, and read it and be blessed by it. So, as of right now, I don't know, how many people have access to Amazon, but it's definitely on Amazon.
We all do.
Yep, so it's on Amazon in paperback, and also for those who like to read on their Kindle, you can download it on Kindle. And also in a little bit, I'm going to be sending some copies down from my mom and my auntie. So hopefully they'll have some paperback in their hands as well to, for those who would be interested. But you can also, to learn more about Willie and I, you can go to our website. And that's freedomfocusedministries.com, freedomfocusedministries.com, where you can learn more, see videos, and just follow us on Facebook and all the other social media avenues.
Now, and he has written 3 or 4 books himself. Quite the writer he is, eh?
He is, his writing, he's an incredible writer, and I'm not saying that just because he's my husband, but he's an incredible writer. He actually prefers to write fiction, Christian fiction, but he wrote 6 books by himself before I met him, but together we have co-authored 14 books.
Oh, so there's other work there authored by you and by Willie.
Correct, yes.
What are some of those titles?
So, for myself, and we co-authored, Pregnant with a Promise is one of them, where we help individuals recognize the incredible promise that God has placed in you, and we walk you through almost like a natural pregnancy, men and women, that when you realize what God has placed in you, how to nurture that promise, who to have around you in your delivery room, things you can't do that you used to do to be able to bring that baby, that promise to fruition. I have another one, the Consecrated Cocoon, where we talk about, sometimes we feel like we're in a place of isolation, but like a caterpillar, what God is doing is removing everything, that we're not going to need. Some people struggling with guilt and shame and with their past. And so when God is preparing us to soar into our purpose and our destiny, he sometimes has to put us in a place that feels like isolation, but it's really intimacy, so we can get to know who we are in him, so we can walk in the fullness of our potential. Willie has written a series, Bad Girl and Bad Boy. And both of those, the premises is that a lot of times society tells us that we are a bad person, a bad girl, or a bad boy. But if you look all throughout the Bible, the people that God people God uses are not the people that everybody consider to be the best. He uses prostitutes, he uses murderers. And so in the premise of that book is that the very thing that we think disqualify us from God's use is the very thing that qualifies us. So many, many books. So if they go to the website, they'll see them all. They're also on Amazon.
Very good. Now, you spoke of the very first Sunday that you and we went to church together. For the first time, she was standing by your side. And the church, they sang a beautiful song called You Made a Way. I want you to tie a bow around this with that song, because in exercising faith, that's faith. It's God making a way when everything seems against what you're hoping and praying for. God made a way. Tell us a little bit about that moment, because when I read it, I got goosebumps reading that. You made a way.
Yes. And you making me tear up just thinking about it, because I can tell you for almost 3 years I would stand in the church services by myself and try to envision what it would be like to have Willie standing next to me, to see us both standing at the altar, see us both praising and raising our hands. And that was a song that when I would go to visit him on Saturdays and Sundays, I would play that song, just blast the song all the way to the prison and all the way home, and saying, God, we know you're going to make a way. So when we were sitting in church the first Sunday and the choir piped up and began to sing that song, we lost it. We stood up and we sang louder than everybody else. My husband, tears rolling down his face, tears rolling down my eyes, because we knew beyond a shadow of a doubt. We're grateful for people who put in a good word and people, but we knew that it was only God who made a way. They never had to release Willie. That was God's favor and God's protection. After 31 years, God made a way.
Anne-Marie, stick a pin in it right there. We're going to take another quick break and we'll be right back.
This is Observer Radio, 91.1 FM.
And welcome back. Anne-Marie, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Now, Anne-Marie, and by the way, not only is it a great read, but great photos of you and Willie in the kitchen and relaxing and all of that sort of. You guys can't keep your hands off of each other. You really love that.
Yes, Willie like to say we like each other. You know, it's kind of easy to love somebody, but to like them means you really like their presence and being around them, and we do. We like each other a lot.
Yeah, and the photos tell that story. We can see it in your eyes. We can see in the affectionate way in which you hug and touch each other. Very, very good. Again, just remind the folks how they can get their hands on a copy of this great, great book, Foolish Faith.
Yes, you can definitely get a copy, both paperback and Kindle, on Amazon, as well as all of our other books. Some I mentioned and some I didn't have a chance to share about. And please visit our website, freedomfocusedministries.com, and that's where you'll be able to connect with us, see all of our books, see more videos, and just really hear more of our story. And we look forward to connecting with everybody. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I have a lot of family members and friends that are listening in. We are grateful for you and your prayers and for your continued support as we pray for each of you as well. And again, thank you so much for this opportunity.
It's been our pleasure. Thank you so much, Anne-Marie, and may God continue to bless you and me.
Thank you. Blessings to you too.